today's history video, I'd like to pick up where we left off. In the last history video, Reagan had just been elected president, and now I'd like to talk about the Reagan Revolution. The Reagan Revolution was so fundamental. It was clearly one of the major events in our history. And from my point of view, that and his defeat of the Soviet Union in the Cold War elevate Ronald Reagan to one of the three greatest presidents our country has ever had. Well, really four. I would say Washington, Lincoln, FDR, and Reagan. Reagan's domestic achievement was incredible. The big thing is that when he took office, the federal government took 50% of your income in income taxes. And when you added about 10 for states and localities, you're up to 60% of your income taken away from you before you got out of bed in the morning. And Reagan knocked the top bracket down to 28% for a limited period. Then in 1986 they raised it, and Bush raised it, and then Clinton raised it, and then Obama raised it, and now it's back up to 45%. But it had been as low as 28% under the Reagan administration. And the capital gains rate was cut from 25 to 15. And the result, I'm sorry, from 30 to 20, excuse me. And as a result, there was a vast explosion of prosperity, a tremendous infusion of investment and an income in the United States. That, coupled with Reagan's steadfastness in standing behind Paul Volcker, who Carter had appointed to head the Federal Reserve Board. Volcker was determined to eradicate the inflation that had dominated the 1970s and called stagflation, economic stagnation and inflation existing side by side. Volcker raised interest rates up to 20%, sent the economy into a recession, lost a lot of jobs, but killed inflation. And Reagan stood right by him during this process, wouldn't flinch. And then when inflation was extinguished, the Fed began to lower interest rates, and the economy began a boom that basically lasted more than 20 years, fundamentally transforming the entire American economy. But a lot of what Reagan did was not just cyclical in terms of the economy. He really rolled back the whole concept that progress was inevitably liberal, that the dynamic of history was always to move to the left. And in fact, he showed that history had moved too far to the left, and he moved it dramatically to the right and had major effects. He stopped unions from really taking over the country. Unionization had been on the rise, and when he crippled the PATCO union, the air traffic controllers, and wouldn't give in when they had a strike, he effectively destroyed the momentum of the union movement and made sure that we would largely be a country of essentially free labor in the private sector. In terms of domestic spending, he capped it. Discretionary spending, other than the defense budget, was about 150 when he took office, and was about 150 when he left office. Then it rose up to about 700, and now we've cut it back to about 500. But Reagan really held the line. While he was doing that, he doubled defense spending from about $150 billion a year to about $330 billion a year, which was part of his strategy to defeat the Soviet Union, end the threat of nuclear war, and end the threat of communism that was hanging over the world. A completely transformational presidency, both in terms of what it did to American attitudes, to our self-confidence, to our feeling that we could achieve, that we could change. And we had been lulled into believing in the 70s that this was an era of limits, that less was more, that we couldn't hope for high growth. Pessimism became the bodyguard of Jimmy Carter's liberalism. And Reagan said that isn't so. We're an incredible country, unique, with incredible ability, all the rhetoric Obama has, but policies to back them up. That really moved America forward in an incredible way during his administration. Next week, we'll talk about how he won the Cold War as a direct result of his actions in a way that would not have happened otherwise. Thanks for watching.